Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Emi Onyuki. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following school: from Western Australia, Santa Maria College, Attadale. I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able to be seated, please do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Robert Storrie Guthrie. Robert Guthrie was born on the 16th of March, 1893, to Senator Robert Storrie Guthrie and his wife, Janet. Robert Guthrie Sr. was a seafaring man who became a leading figure in the Seamen's and Waterside Workers unions based in Port Adelaide in South Australia. Known as Sailor Bob, he went into Parliament 2 years before his son Robert was born, serving nearly 30 years as a strong advocate for the shipping industry. Robert Guthrie the Younger was born in Port Adelaide and educated at the Coromandel Valley and Stott Street schools. He worked for a number of companies, including the Castle Salt Company on the York Peninsula and McGlue's in Port Adelaide. By 1914, he was working as a bookkeeper at Lilydale Station near Peterborough in South Australia's mid-north. Guthrie had long held an interest in military matters, was a private in the South Australian Scottish Infantry, and a lieutenant in the senior cadets. Robert Guthrie enlisted in Australian Imperial Force in June 1915. He underwent a period of training in Australia, which resulted in his being commissioned a second lieutenant in early 1916. He left Australia for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 27th Battalion the following April. He was sent to Egypt, but within a few weeks moved on to England, where he undertook a training course to qualify as a grenade officer. Passing with the highest honors, he went on to serve as a training officer with the 12th Training Battalion on the Salisbury Plain for the remainder of the year. In January 1917, Guthrie was promoted to lieutenant. He remained seconded to the Training Battalion for a further 3.5 months before transferring to France to join the 48th Battalion in the field. The battalion had not long participated in the First Bullecourt battle. Towards the end of the year, the battalion became involved in the Great Offensive of that year, known as the Battle of Third Ypres, or simply Passchendaele. In the early hours of the 12th of October 1917, the 48th Battalion advanced to attack the village of Passchendaele. The men marched forward through boggy, muddy ground in the rain, reaching their jumping off positions only 8 minutes before the attack was to begin. Shortly after the attack was launched, it was clear that things were not going to plan. The battalion managed to advance, but sustained heavy casualties while trying to consolidate their new line. Faced by a series of determined German counterattacks, the battalion was forced to withdraw with more than 350 men killed, wounded, or missing. Among the missing was Lieutenant Robert Guthrie. It took some time to determine what had happened to him. In March 1918, some 5 months after he had gone missing, Driver Collins of the 48th Battalion reported that he had been on the Ypres-Menin Road the morning after the attack and met Guthrie leading a working party. On Collins' return a couple of hours later, he saw Guthrie's body lying in a shell hole near the road, clearly having been blown up. This evidence was given at a court of inquiry the following month, and it was determined that Lieutenant Robert Guthrie had been killed in action on the 12th of October, 1917. Robert Guthrie's younger brother, David, who was serving with the 10th Battalion, was also killed in action on the Western Front. He was killed the day before the court of inquiry that confirmed Robert's death. The Guthrie family in Australia received the confirmation of these deaths within days of each other. Robert Guthrie's name is listed on the Roll of Honor on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant Robert Storrie Guthrie, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
I invite you to please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys and students, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.